Hi, my name is Chris and this is Battle Nonsense. This is an update to my netcode Real Delay and Y10Hz videos. So if you haven't seen them yet, you might want to do so before you continue here. We have had a few very nice and productive discussions in the comments to these videos. Comments came from the PC players as well as console players, who all reported to have the same issues as we have been talking about there. Since the last video I have been doing more tests and more research, and in this video I'd like to share with you what I've found. So as we've seen, the TCR for the Xbox 360 is quite a big limitation. Players with a connection that can only do 40 kilobit per second or 5 kilobyte per second and have a ping of 300 milliseconds still have to be able to play the game. So many of you have been asking, what about the Xbox One and the PlayStation 4? While there's no TCR leaked for these two new consoles, there's something in the requirements for the Xbox One which is quite interesting. It says that you need a broadband connection with at least 1.5 megabit per second. That are around 187 kilobyte per second. However, as it still is with many internet connection types today, the download rate you get might be much higher than the upload rate. For an ADSL connection with 1.5 megabit downstream, you usually get 0.5 megabit upstream. That's 62.5 kilobyte per second. This is a massive difference to the 5 kilobyte per second that are in the TCR of the Xbox 360. But the requirement mentioned by Microsoft will surely not be identical to the TCR of the Xbox One. Microsoft will be interested in reserving some headroom there for the connection of the Xbox One and the services the console has running in the background. Still, the difference to the TCR of the Xbox 360 should be quite massive. At least this requirement does give some hope. Another interesting thing I'd like to mention is the internet requirements for Titanfall on PC, which are 512 kilobit per second downstream and 384 kilobit per second upstream or faster. That's 64 kilobyte per second downstream and 48 kilobyte per second upstream. Is this the new TCR for the Xbox One? Or is Titanfall just using more bandwidth on the PC than on the Xbox One? We don't know. I've been playing the beta on PC and noticed that the upstream is at a pretty steady 8 kilobyte per second and the downstream was around 18 kilobyte per second. In comparison, Battlefield 4 uses 14.5 kilobyte per second downstream and 4.5 kilobyte per second upstream. That's when playing Domination with 64 players, which is quite extreme. So the upstream of Battlefield 4 stays within the TCR limit of the Xbox 360, while Titanfall has nearly 2 times the upstream of Battlefield 4 and the TCR of the Xbox 360. In the previous videos I said that the client would send out data to the server 10 times per second. Some might have noticed that I didn't talk about how often it receives an update, simply because I wasn't 100% sure. I've also not been talking about simulation rates of the engine. That's because I want to keep these videos as simple as possible and mainly focus on the delay happening in the communication frequencies. In the comments to my 10Hz video, NL Sandman Dromeland brought this tweet to my attention. What it clearly says is that there are different rates used for up and down. That's what I already suspected when looking at the traffic that is generated by Battlefield 4. Now, where it becomes a bit uncertain is what the meaning of 10 to 30 is. Could it mean that the rate is variable? Or does it just mean that one rate is 10 and the other is 30? So I fired a Wireshark again and looked at the data sent and received. What I've seen there is that every 0.1 seconds, that's 100 milliseconds, I received a packet from the server. So this seems to be the 10 Hz rate. I've been logging for more than half an hour and there were only very minor differences in the time between the packages I received. It was pretty steady at 100 milliseconds. Now to the packets I sent. The average is about 35 milliseconds, which translates into about 30 transmissions per second, so 30 Hz. However, I have also seen spikes that go from 25 milliseconds up to 70 milliseconds, for the time between packages I send. I have again been logging for half an hour, and the 25 and the 70 millisecond spikes were only occurring very briefly. I didn't see Battlefield really switch to a send frequency of 25 milliseconds, which would be 40 Hz, or 70 milliseconds, which would be 14 Hz, for a longer period of time. So I'm not sure if these spikes are a bug or actually intentional. So as you can see, I was wrong in my previous videos when I said that the client would send data 10 times per second. It actually sends about 30 times per second and receives data 10 times per second. The reason why I said it would be 10 times per second is because I misinterpreted this post on Reddit, which said each client connection having a send rate of 10 Hz, as in how many updates the client sends to the server. At that time I also read that the client would receive data at 30 Hz, but there was no proof for that. That's why I didn't mention it in my videos. Yet because the incoming traffic is about 3 times larger than the outgoing traffic, this made sense at that time. So that's what led to my error. I should have better checked it with Wireshark first. So are the other videos meaningless now? I'd say no, because the number 10 and 100 milliseconds remains a part of the communication process as a whole. It is just happening in the opposite direction of the communication than I initially thought it would. This also means that the delays I talked about in my videos remain unchanged. It is just happening in the other direction of the communication. So every 100 milliseconds we receive data from the server. Now you could think that this could be the cause for the zero-hit kill, where you get killed by a player who is not even shooting at you. The cause could be that because the updates are not sent frequently enough, in example 10 fired rounds are transmitted in one packet. Could this be the cause? Let's have a look at a weapon with a very high fire rate, like the FAMAS, which does 1000 rounds per minute. This then translates into 16.6 rounds per second. If the server is sending out updates 10 times per second, so every 100 milliseconds, then in one update it would be 1.6 rounds that are sent to your client. At close range, the FAMAS needs 4 rounds to kill you. But in close range, I'm not really angry about dying fast. What bothers me is when a guy who is more than 20 meters away is able to kill me without even a shot fired, at least on my screen. Ignoring headshots, then at this distance he needs to hit me at least 5 times to kill me. This would mean that your client needs to receive 3 to 4 updates from the server to get killed. This means that from the first shot you see on your screen to the last shot that is killing you, it takes about 300 milliseconds if all 5 fired rounds actually hit you. When playing at 60 frames per second on a 60 Hz monitor, there are about 18 frames that are displayed on your screen. When playing at 30 frames per second, then it are about 9 frames. This means that the frequency at which updates are sent does sadly not explain the zero-hit kill. This seems to be caused by either strange things going on inside the server or inside your client. An example, how your client is rendering the data it receives from the server. What's the bottom line of this? The so-called netcode is flawed. We already knew that. Increasing the frequency at which updates are sent and received won't make the problems we face and make us rage quit go away. But that's not what I suggested in my previous videos anyway. As I said, first DICE has to fix the problems the game has, which results in zero-hit kills, getting killed by players who don't even look in your direction, are still in another room or climbing up a ladder. And once what we refer to as netcode is working as it should, then it would still be nice to see the frequency of the updates either increase in general, or see it made a configurable value, as in the source engine, so that the game server providers could offer us to run the server at higher rates. Yet this will cause quite a lot of work for DICE, because the game is built around these numbers. If you were to increase the rates, then you would face terrible side effects like physics completely freak out, timers in rush go off too fast, and much more, as Kiwidog, the creator of VeniceFX, explained to me recently. And this is why I fear that the best we might get at some point is a netcode that is on the same level as Battlefield 3. So we will still get killed around the corner and other strange stuff happening, but at least not as frequently as in Battlefield 4 now. When you look at the massive issues we get with every new patch and with the Second Assault DLC that was just released on PC and PlayStation, then I can't shake the feeling that the game or the engine has gained a lot of spaghetti code and quick hacks over the years, thanks to the rushed development of Battlefield 3 and Battlefield 4. These are issues that then love to cause the problem where you fix one thing and something completely unrelated breaks, like chats no longer able to start, bombs that can't be picked up, and that the entire in-game sound is lost, and so on. As it stands, I have very little hope for Battlefield 4 to become more stable than Battlefield 3. Some of you asked me in the comments what we can do to get DICE and Electronic Arts to fix the issues in Battlefield 4. Quite frankly, nothing. Do you remember when they said that all DLC development got put on hold until Battlefield 4 is fixed? Yet Naval Assault was just announced. Is Battlefield already fixed? All we can do is remember about all the issues when the hype train for the next rushed game starts. So when you see shiny trailers that ask you to pre-order now to get some worthless digital crap as reward, don't do it. As consumers, we are entitled to receive a working product. This is not early access. We bought AAA titles. Some spent more than 110 euros or $1 for it, including premium. But as consumers, we also have a responsibility. And that is to show that enough is enough. Vote with your wallet. Do not pre-order. We should already have learned our lessons from SimCity. I hope we all learned our lesson finally with Battlefield 4. My name is Chris, and this was Battle Nonsense. See you next time.